Hi everyone, this is the Notorious Skeptic here. You know what really grinds my gears? Nothing really, I'm just very confused as to why the Democratic Party is so self-destructive lately. I mean, they completely lost the 2016 elections, but they now obviously have a chance to rebound because Trump has been rather controversial to say the least. But they seem to suffer from way too much infighting, and obviously the Republicans have been suffering from infighting as well ever since Trump announced his candidacy, although basically even before that. But it seems strange that they're in no way capable of taking advantage of that. It kind of reminds me of the Jewish rebellion against the Romans, where the Jews were fighting amongst themselves, while the Romans were having a civil war after the death of Nero. The real question seems to be whether to impeach or not to impeach. The Democrats don't seem to have a common strategy in this regard. They obviously seem to be grabbing a lot of media attention, with some very notable Democrats already having filed multiple articles of impeachment, but other Democrats seem to be trying to silence these attempts, waiting for the investigation to come to a close. And even then, once the investigation comes to a close, the question is, will they have a common strategy? Trying to impeach a president is a really risky endeavor. It can result in, well, what happened with Nixon, where the Democrats won countless seats. But it can also totally backfire, like when the Republicans tried to impeach President Clinton and they lost a lot of seats in the 1998 election. It seems especially dangerous in the case of President Trump because he ran on a populist platform. And he does still have a very fanatical voting base that obviously is only galvanized by any attempts to impeach him. They will obviously just claim it's a witch hunt, it's a conspiracy. At least 1/3 of the Americans will probably support Trump, even if they would try to successfully impeach him, just because they think it's some kind of conspiracy, it's the establishment trying to remain in power. And in that sense, what Democrats would really need to make a big difference is to flip the Trump voters into Democrat voters. And for that, they would need a completely new strategy. Merely opposing Trump probably won't be enough to once again become popular. The Democratic Party has its lowest approval ratings in 25 years, especially after the whole scandal of Hillary Clinton having rigged the primaries in 2016. Their infighting doesn't seem to be helping them to rebound, and the fact of the matter is just that the majority of centrist voters have had it with both the Republicans and the Democrats. But as we saw in 2016, that didn't cause many of them to flip to a third party. That concept just doesn't really seem to exist in American politics. Centrist voters who don't care anymore just don't vote. So the elections generally seem to be decided either by centrist voters who choose one candidate over the other as a lesser evil, or by the stronger fanatic base of one party where more of the voters show up while many voters of the other parties just stay home. Democrats seem desperate to somehow recapture the center, which is why probably a lot of them have tried to avoid impeachment talks. But their more fanatical hardcore members are obviously endangering this by being so openly in favor of impeaching Trump even before the investigation has come to a close. This will galvanize the more fanatical supporters, but it will probably even further alienate the people on the center or the center left. And it will at the same time probably galvanize Trump supporters. Trying to appeal to fanatical far left voters of the Democratic Party only has the reverse effect of galvanizing the right and making them even more fanatical in favor of supporting Trump. Polarizing the political spectrum basically has the same effects for both sides. It will not really profit either party. Although it would probably rather profit Trump than it would profit the Democratic Party, because Trump knows how to appeal to populist politics, and the Democratic Party seems to have forgotten how to do so. They had a chance to run on a populist platform with Bernie Sanders, but obviously that ship has set sail. A lot of people are now hoping he'll be the candidate in 2020, but let's be honest, he'll just be too old. There's no way that that's going to happen, and it's especially unlikely considering the tension that now exists within the Democratic Party. If Bernie Sanders became the candidate, he would probably get as little support from the Democratic Party as Trump got from the Republicans in 2016. So the Democrats need to find a way to appeal to the center while not alienating their more populist voters. And they'll probably have to choose one strategy over the other, but they don't seem to be able to agree on which strategy to use. All of the optimistic reports from left-wing media that says that the Democrats might take the House in 2018 almost exclusively rely on the unpopularity of Trump, which was also what they mainly relied on in 2016 when they were hoping that Hillary would win the election. They talked more about how Trump was blowing it than about how Hillary was popular, because most of the left-wing media didn't try to portray her as popular. She was seen as an establishment figure on nearly all sides of the spectrum, and her attempt to present herself as an outsider just because she was a woman obviously fell flat and didn't succeed in replicating Obama's identity politics back in 2008. So what's next for the Democratic Party? The smartest thing that they can do, in my opinion, is to oppose Trump in a very constructive, positive manner, to make it look like they're a party that stands for something instead of against something. And the best way they could probably do that is by presenting themselves as moderates and centrists, that oppose the far-right agenda of Trump, as the left-wing media likes to put it. That could probably be successful at swaying a lot of centrist voters back to their side, and that could be essential to defeating Trump, because it seems unlikely that Trump will be able to appeal to a lot of centrist voters throughout his presidential term. So somehow, Democrats will have to find a way to make sure that both the left and the center votes for them. And in my opinion, the smartest way to go about it would be to pick a president and a vice president for the 2020 election that represents the two spectrums of the party. They made a big mistake in 2016 by picking such a fanatical, pro-choice, quote-unquote Catholic. They went so far with the agenda of I'm a Catholic, but I also favor abortion in the third trimester, that it no longer managed to appeal to centrist voters. It could be very smart to pick a moderate pro-life Democrat for either vice president or president in the 2020 election. That way, they could probably even sway a lot of pro-lifers from the Republican side to their party, who have had it with all of the controversy surrounding Trump's presidency. A lot of pro-lifers didn't want to support Trump in the beginning, but they felt they had no choice because of how strongly pro-choice the Democratic Party platform was. So maybe if they found somewhat of a balance, appealing to moderate pro-choicers on the one hand, but moderate pro-lifers on the other hand, to present themselves as moderate social liberals, that could get people back to their side. Instead of once again trying to revive the Bernie Sanders strategy that I don't think will be able to recapture the enthusiasm it had in 2016. They'll have to try something new. And if they went for a more moderate platform, they could also more strongly try to link themselves to the legacy of presidents like JFK and Lyndon Johnson. That would seem like a very smart strategy in my opinion. So I'm curious to see what they'll do in the 2018 election, and especially in 2020, because so far Republicans have clearly been very self-destructive themselves, as you can see with their whole failure to repeal Obamacare. But by signing those two executive orders, Trump once again managed to live up to his populist legacy. So I don't think his populist voters will in any way feel betrayed. They'll feel betrayed by the stonewalling of the Democratic Party on the one hand, and by what they'll call Republicans in name only on the right side. And because of this, they'll probably be even more likely to vote in favor of Trump. So Democrats need to find a way to undercut populist reform. So it will be interesting to see whether they'll go either full-blown populist and try to take the Bernie Sanders route, or whether they'll really go for a more centrist position, or whether they'll keep infighting over which position to choose, and it will just be a race of which party can be the most self-destructive. Maybe we'll see in 2018 and 2020 that both most of the Republicans and the Democratic Party are being self-destructive in infighting, and Trump will once again therefore be able to appeal to a populist rhetoric of dissatisfied voters. If that happens, we'll probably just see a repeat of what happened in 2016, but what do I know? I'm just some notorious skeptic.